recently that scientific research shows that the brain continues active sometime after the heart stops. This is relevant to some of these life after life, near-death experience things, but more to the point, perhaps it can be part of the ground of this particular healing. There are 3 resurrections of the dead in the Gospels by Jesus. One, and they are different levels of death, we might say. One is this, which seems to be at the edge of death, where the girl is called back from that liminal place. Then the second is of the widow of Nain, where the only son is being taken to the cemetery to be buried. And the third is Lazarus, who has been buried for it's on the 3rd day. He's been buried for some considerable time. So we have, as it were, levels of death and the demonstration of Christ's presence and power everywhere from that liminal sort of, if you will, bardo or whatever you want to call it, that liminal area at the edge of death to the depth of death. And the line of thought that can go with this, usually from a homiletic point of view, I think it is the emphasis on the faith, you see. The faith that the urgent faith with which the woman with the issue of blood reaches out to touch Jesus. And her touch, because of its urgency, both has that power of faith and draws down the power from on high. And that's a level of faith in spite of 12 years of, you see, of not, of impossibility, of not healing. And then the child seems now to be dead, and it seems impossible, but Jairus' faith does not waver in spite of the delay in the Master's coming. And the faith leads, or the faith is part of the act of resurrection. I think this is a homiletic approach, and I would like to add, however, one more level, and that will be the primary little thought for us to meditate upon, maybe, if we will, and that is that the seeming death is extends into our own inner life, where there is much that becomes, as we live in our experience of life, becomes moribund, becomes discarded, and becomes a sort of dead zone in ourselves. This is what Dostoevsky is talking about at the end of the conversation of Ivan and Alyosha in The Brothers Karamazov, where Alyosha says the one thing that remains for you to do is to raise those dead within yourself, which perhaps have not really died. So you see, and that can refer to what? To the dead in oneself, that create the moribund dead zone in my heart, in our hearts, are, well, I mean, it's, we can see how it would be. There are things that are set aside in the heart through guilt, others through shame. There are memories that in remembering them we may feel, or not, we may in fact therefore not remember them, but they would feel guilt. Others which are touched by a taint of shame. There are those that parts of our inner world which are the not taken in life, what we might have done, or we regret not having done, or regretting or not ways that we might have developed and lived our lives that we did not do, parts of ourselves left undeveloped. That's, in a sense, that's a subtheme. Well, the Brothers Karamazov can't really be a gospel text, but that's, you know, each of the brothers represents images, an aspect of a fullness of humanity, whether intellect, intuitive feeling, sensuous feeling in the case of Dmitri, and so on. Well, those are the three. But each one, therefore, has left somewhat undeveloped another part. Also the theme, you might say, of The Wizard of Oz, where one feels the need for courage, another for intellect, another for feeling. Of course, they in fact have those things as they discover, but it's only by discovering that they have them, by bringing them to life within themselves. So I think I will read that little passage from of the conversation of Ivan and Alyosha. It's an interesting one, and it begins with Alyosha saying that the first thing necessary is to love life. In a sense, Dostoevsky, as a theologian, allows himself to go a little outside, perhaps, an ordinary course. But I would add the gloss, the comment to that about loving life that I will read now, that life is both divine and human. Life is that which God and humanity share. And I would be inclined to think, out of a positive experience, that theosis, the experience of our becoming as divine, is none other than life itself in its depth. Anyway, here is Dostoevsky. Alyosha speaking. I think everyone should love life above everything in the world. Ivan, love life more than the meaning of it? Certainly, love it regardless of logic. As you say, it must be regardless of logic, and it's only then one will understand the meaning of it. I have thought so a long time. Half your work is done, Ivan. You love life. Now you've only to try to do the second half, and you will be saved. You're trying to save me, but perhaps I'm not lost. And what does your second half mean? Why, one has to raise up your dead, who perhaps have not died after all. The embrace of life, and the embrace of the life as God has given it to us, that we can begin to embrace all that dead zone that the Lord would wish to raise up in us. It's a good consideration, perhaps, as we approach time before Christmas, that resurrection is not so separate from birth. The birth of the full person comes in the raising up of all of life. George MacDonald, an author of many things, and a wise man, said, we die every day, happy those who daily come to life as well. Amen.